I believe it was a scholar of the 21st century that stated, and I quote, "When a rich, racially charged non-explicitive wants you, and your racially charged non-explicitive can't do nothing for you. Oh, these loose lifestyled individuals ain't loyal. Oh, these loose lifestyled individuals ain't loyal. Yeah, let me see." Which begs the question to be asked, why hasn't Sony learned from the philosophy produced by its own subsidiaries? It's a shame. Hey everybody, welcome to Montage. I'm Kyle, and today I'm a gamer. We're in a period of time which used to be my favorite period of time. It's the time where all the tech buzz and anxiety is directed towards the next-gen gaming consoles. But I don't play as much as I used to, so it's not a big deal to me anymore. Although I'm still super intrigued because the tech that they put into these machines is usually masterfully done. And so far, I have not been disappointed. I love the clash of the titans of industry, the competition and capitalism, Sony versus Microsoft, PlayStation versus Xbox, the old timer versus the young buck. And like any competition, I like seeing who wins. I'm partial to PlayStation, but I won't be hurt if they lose. It will hurt. It'll hurt a little bit. Now, obviously, the biggest competition in capitalism is pricing. When I heard that the non-disc drive PS5 is $100 more than the non-disc drive Xbox Series S, I thought Xbox is for sure gonna blow them out the water, because I was thinking of 2 generations ago with the Xbox 360 and PS3 launch, which is exactly what happened initially. But as I did digging to remember correctly, the Xbox 360 came out an entire year before the PS3 did, which I had forgotten about. In addition, the 360 was anywhere from $100 to $300 cheaper than the PS3 counterpart, depending on which model you chose to purchase. That's right, a $300 price difference at launch for just a system with no bundle. That would have been the $300 360 core that had no hard drive, and the $600 60 gigabyte PS3. If you're still clutching your pearls at $600 in 2020, that's appropriate, because that was an absurd amount of money to charge. Like, where in the world did they think it was okay to charge $600 for a system that will make it the most expensive console over a 3-decade stretch, if you include the 2020 decade? And if you also remember, the PS3 didn't come with the DualShock 3 controller. They had the 6-axis controller that had no vibration, and then later came out with the DualShock 3, which then replaced the 6-axis controller completely to never be seen again. Thank goodness. And again, I say, what was Sony thinking to not launch with the DualShock? So in fairness, let's run with the 20 gigabyte version of each, which makes a difference of $100 in favor of the Xbox 360. The $500 20 gigabyte PS3 was still steep and the most expensive gaming console sold within the previous decade, which made it even more difficult for people like me, who was a kid that had older parents that didn't understand video games. And being a kid who up until that point had only asked for Nintendo consoles that launched at $200 each. The cards weren't in my favor, but I was on a mission. These microcosms plagued the PS3 launch initially. But the Xbox 360 had its own bouts of self-sabotage, like the red ring of death, and the futility of the HD DVD, and the fact that you had to buy an additional external drive because it didn't originally come as built-in hardware. And go figure, it cost $100 more, which made it the same price as the PS3 that utilized Blu-ray. And then came the era of Watch Me Move with Kinect and PlayStation's glowing orbs, because somebody had to compete with Wii, which I thought was terrific until I actually used the stuff and realized it's mostly gimmicky. Now, you can knock Microsoft for launching too soon or not quite being ready for launch, which was clearly evident with all the defects that they had early on, but they had to. They were the new kids on the block. They had to stir up the foundation of PlayStation in some way. They had to cut into the market that Sony almost had on lock. And remember, this is the first real altercation between the two since Microsoft entered the competition of gaming consoles. In just the generation of consoles prior, the Dreamcast didn't even sell 10 million units, which led Sega to exiting the console manufacturing business. The Xbox came out in 2001, selling 24 million consoles, which is super solid for a new contender, especially considering it outsold Nintendo's GameCube by over 2 million consoles, which is what I had to suffer through while all my friends and family had PlayStation 2s, which came out in 2000 and sold 155 million consoles, making it the #1 selling gaming console ever. The original Xbox was priced the same and came out the year after. Now, if you're a Microsoft executive, I'm sure you're considering, what do we have to do to be on top? Because clearly they were shooting for nothing less. I don't care what we have to do, but it will come out this year, it will be cheaper, and we will outsell them. Initially. And they did just that, which is weird because Sony had a whole year to say, hey, let's make the PS3 more competitively priced. PlayStation could not touch them. Xbox was outselling by millions, and millions more were switching from Sony to Microsoft. Again, initially. Microsoft rode that wave until it eased into shore, creating a divide of Team PlayStation and Team Xbox. But at the end of it all, PlayStation still won. PS3 outselling the Xbox 360 by nearly 3 million consoles. Although a slim margin when considering the total sales of each topped 172 million, it was still a W for Sony and Microsoft because Microsoft successfully cut into Sony's market. I imagine Sony could have only learned from that our base isn't as loyal as we thought. They came in at prices riddled with conceit, thinking nobody can touch us, and then got touched. It's like the arrogance that Mike Tyson had until he fought Evander Holyfield. Sony knew their only option at this point was to bite Microsoft's ear off. Maybe that's too far. It's more like they came in with that I got big fan base energy, and that's kind of what they get for taking their fans for granted. Either way, they knew they had to come back balls to the wall. PS4 comes out in 2013 at $400, just 1 week before the $500 Xbox One. During this time is when we saw Xbox One attempting to focus more on the all-inclusive home entertainment system, while PlayStation was asking, but what about them games though? I think even that decision from Xbox was in response to PS3's success in its multimedia capabilities, trying to cater a little more to families where not everybody plays video games. But PlayStation just flexed its muscles insane, like, yeah, don't get it twisted, it's still about them games though. The numbers, you ask? PS4 slaughtered Xbox One. I mean, as far as we know, because while we're still in the midst of both of these systems being sold, Microsoft stopped releasing sales information for the Xbox One. And in my non-corporate executive mind, to me that sounds like I gotta turn the system off because I'm down 60 in 2K in the first half and no one will ever remember this game. If we don't release our sales data, then they'll never know we lost. It seems like a stop the bleeding move, but as of now, as far as we know, PS4 has sold over 112 million units and Xbox One 47 million units, which is over double the score because this is a game, guys and gals. But again, we have no way of knowing with certainty at this time, and I cannot trust running with that Xbox One number because that would mean Nintendo Switch has outsold the Xbox One by nearly 15 million units, and it came out 4 years after. That just simply doesn't make sense. Or does it? Thoughts in the comments. With the election-like coverage of the PS5 and Xbox Series systems, it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out. Get it? Hopefully, nowhere near as divisive as the actual election, but maybe even more so because they're devices. I'm really curious to see how sales will tally up, especially with the disk drive units, because each of those systems will cost the same and be launched in the same week, which has never happened before. I believe the PS5 will outsell in the disk drive arena, but also maybe not, because for the first time, maybe people will consider how large of a footprint the console has because the PS5 is massive. However, for the non-disk drive units, I think the Series S will outsell the PS5 because it is $100 cheaper, initially. Because it seems like Sony didn't actually learn their lesson from 2 generations ago when they were out so, like, gangbusters. Initially. But maybe that's also why, because they're like, we still have the better product. So it really doesn't matter if we're $100 more because we're still gonna outsell them in the end. Because nobody's really that loyal when checkbooks are involved, and that's just capitalism and hoes at their finest, ladies and gentlemen of the internets. If you disagree, meet me in the comments section and hit the thumbs up. Also hit the subscribe button if you already haven't, and the bell for notifications to know when I post future videos. See me soon. But nah, PS5 is gonna smash Xbox. Have you seen that controller? It's beautiful. It's a work of art. I hope developers get excited about it just like all of us are and see it as a challenge that they want to conquer, because I have never been this trigger happy before. Alright, I'm out for real this time.
Is the elephant heavy? I'm coming back, baby.